Hi again, it's Mrs. Schreiber here to teach you today, and we are going to do a lesson on nonfiction, topic and main idea. It's just a continuation from our lesson previously. So let's get started by watching a Go Noodle.
From mindless to mindful. To be mindful is to let your attention rest on this moment, on just right now. Let's practice being in the moment. Your body is still, right now. Can you feel that? Your breath is moving in and out of your nose. Can you notice that? Rest one hand on your chest. Can you feel your breath? Move that hand to your belly. Notice breath there. Can you feel that? Bring your hands around to your back. Breath might be moving there. Feel that? This bell is ringing right now. Can you hear that? Where is your attention? Did it wander? It's okay. That's what minds do. Let's practice a little bit more. Now this bell is ringing. Can you hear that? This green dot is still. Can you see that? Some of the other dots are moving. Notice that and then focus your attention on the very still dot. Return your attention to your body. Hands. They're still. Can you feel them? Feet are still. Can you feel them? You are here right now. Can you feel that? In this moment, you are mindful. Do you notice that? There are moments in your day when you can practice being mindful. When you are reading, just read. When you are tying your shoe, just tie your shoe. When you are chewing your food, just chew. Your mind can be full of one thing, one moment at a time.
Okay, now that we're calm, alert, and ready to learn, let's get started. Remember that when you are feeling frustrated, even during the lesson or any time during the day at home, remember you can practice some breathing and get yourself back to calm really quickly. So we're going to get started with some word work. Now, in the past, we've done some work with homophones, we've worked with antonyms and synonyms, and last week we were focusing on some of those ending sounds. And today, we're going to continue on with some of those sounds that we hear. So, first of all, I want you to think about what you notice about the words that we're talking about today. So as we're going through and reading those words, remember I'll say a word, and then you're going to repeat the word to hear the word in your mind. And I want you to focus on what you notice about all those words. What do they have in common? So the first word is along. Now you say it. Along. Amaze. Now you say it. Amaze. China. Now you say it. China. Agree. Now you say it. Agree. Panda. Now you say it. Panda. Yoga. Now you say it. Yoga. Around. Now you say it. Around. Regal. Now you say it. Regal. Have you noticed a pattern yet? Are you hearing any of those sounds that sound the same? You're doing a great job. Tundra. Now you say it. Tundra. Avoid. Now you say it. Avoid. Across. Now you say it. Across. Awake. Now you say it. Awake. Alone. Now you say it. Alone. Among. Now you say it. Among. Sauna. Now you say it. Sauna. Did you notice any patterns with those words? Well, they all have A's. We can see that either have an A at the beginning or an A at the end. And we also notice that they are two-syllable words. And we've talked about having more than one syllable. So where do you hear that schwa sound? We've talked about that too a little bit. But the schwa sound is a new sound with a vowel. So we don't have a long A or a short A sound, but we have what's a new sound, a schwa sound. And where are we hearing those sounds? It's the A, but instead of the A making a short A or a long A, it makes a sound like a U, like a short U, that So where are you hearing those sounds? Are you hearing them at the beginning and at the end? Yes, you are. So we can categorize our words based on where we're hearing that schwa sound, either at the beginning or at the end. So I'm going to say the words again, and I want you to tell me, shout out, if you hear it at the beginning or if you hear it at the end. So how about the word along? Where do you hear that? Beginning or the end? Shout it out in 3, 2, 1. Did you say at the beginning? Because we hear the like short U, in along at the beginning of that word. Let's try another one. Amaze. Where do you hear the beginning or the ending of that schwa sound? Is it at the beginning or the end? Amaze. Shout it out in 3, 2, 1. That's right, it's at the beginning. Good job. Amaze. Our next word is China. Where are you hearing that schwa sound, the short U? Is it at the beginning or is it at the end? China. Shout it out in 3, 2, 1. That's right, it's at the end. China. Our next word is agree. Shout it out in 3, 2, 1. That's right, it's at the beginning. Agree. You hear that schwa sound at the beginning. How about panda? Shout it out. 3, 2, 1. It's at the end. Panda. It's not in the middle. Not that A. It's the ending sound that we're hearing, that sound. How about yoga? In 3, 2, 1. That's right, we hear it at the end again. Remember, we're listening for that sound. How about around? Shout it out in 3, 2, 1. It's at the beginning. Regal. This isn't a tricky one. Regal. In 3, 2, 1. We hear it at the end. At the very end. How about tundra? Tundra. Shout it out in 3, 2, 1. That's right, we hear it at the end. tundra. Avoid. Where are you hearing that sound? Avoid. Shout it out in 3, 2, 1. At the beginning. Across. 3, 2, 1. That's right at the beginning. You're getting so good at this. Keep it up. We're almost done. Awake. In 3, 2, 1. That's right. We're still hearing that sound at the beginning. Alone. In 3, 2, 1. At the beginning. Again, that's great. And among. Among. In 3, 2, 1. At the beginning. And our final word, sauna. Sauna. In 3, 2, 1. It's at the end. Good job. You guys have worked really hard today on your word work. So let's continue on in our fluency passage. Remember, our fluency, we want to make sure that we are reading smoothly, we're reading with expression, with meaning, and at just the right speed. So we're going to read a poem called Come Along. Ooh, I hope you're listening, because as we're reading through this together, we want to point out some of those schwa sounds in that short U with an A that we were just practicing. So notice those words as we're reading along. Come along. Come along to the zoo. There's so much to see. Things to amaze. I know you'll agree. What comes from China with black and white fur? A panda, you say? Oh yes, that's for sure. Across the way, we can see lions awake. They look so regal over there by the lake. And who's from the tundra where it always stays cold? That baby white polar bear who is just 1 year old. The otters do not like to play all alone. They're swimming around and under that stone. So many animals and so much to see. Come along to the zoo. Come along with me. So I'm going to highlight and see if you can find those words too as we read through this. Along, amaze, agree, China. Are you hearing those sounds? Panda, across, awake, regal, tundra, alone, around, along, and then along again. So again, as we read through this passage, we were able to listen for those sounds that we were just practicing. Continue practicing your fluency because it's so important as you learn to read and as you keep building your reading confidence. Knowing all these things that we're practicing is going to make you a better reader. All right, so let's get started with our reading lesson today. We are doing RN 2.2, that's our focus today, and it says to identify the main idea of multi-paragraph text and the topic of each paragraph. Now, last time we talked about the same thing. However, we were looking at just one paragraph and finding the topic and main idea of just one paragraph. Today, however, our I can statement is, I can identify the main idea and topic of a multi-paragraph text. So that means we're going to look at texts that have more than one paragraph. So just to review, we have topic versus our main idea. Remember, topic is the big idea or subject that the author writes about. And a main idea is a statement that the author makes about what the topic of the text is and what the text is mostly about. In a topic, we're going to have only 1 or 2 words, but a main idea will be a whole sentence. And the topic is usually a general subject. So oftentimes we'll see that the topic is in the title of our story. Whereas a main idea is a whole sentence, and it's usually complete and more specific than what the topic is. And like I said, the topic's usually in the title, but the main idea is found in the text. So an example would be plants would be our topic because it's our title, it's in our title, And the main idea is that plants need 4 things to live. If you read that whole passage, it would continue to tell you all those things about plants and the things that they need to live. Remember, again, the main idea is what the text is mostly about. Sometimes we find it in the first or the last sentence, and we look for those clue words. Especially when we're finding the topic, we're looking for clue words that we see over and over and over again. So here's a passage we're going to practice with today. Follow along with me as I read, and then be thinking about what the topic of paragraph 1 is, and what you might think the topic of paragraph 2 is. The rainforest is home to many different animals. The rainforest is filled with colorful tropical birds like the toucan and parrots. Many species of monkeys, frogs, and snakes can also be found in the rainforest. The rainforest is not only home to many exotic animals, but it is also home to many exotic plants. Many lush green trees fill the landscape. Bright, colorful flowers like the orchid, heliacona flower, and poinsettia brighten the landscape floor. Coffee trees and Brazil nuts trees grow in the rainforest. Vines can be seen hanging from tree to tree. These vines act like tiny highways for small animals and insects. And you can also see we've been talking about text features, so we also want to point out this picture because it's showing me what it actually looks like in a rainforest. So our topic of paragraph 1, well, when I read through paragraph 1, I notice that it's talking about animals, and it's saying that the animals that live in the rainforest. And it actually gives me many examples of those animals specifically. So our topic of paragraph 1, for me, what I pulled out was rainforest animals, because we're talking about the animals that we see in the rainforest. And in paragraph 2, it's focusing on the different plants and kinds of plants that live in the rainforest. So the topic of paragraph 2 is rainforest plants. Now, my main idea, remember, we want to answer the questions who, so what is it about, the who, the topic of this passage, the what, where, when, and why. Sometimes we don't have all those answers to those questions, but mainly we're looking for the who the passage is about and what's going on. So my who, I know, is my topic, which was the rainforest. But what was it that this author was really wanting us to know mostly about? Well, the author was wanting us to know that the rainforest is home to many plants and animals. So this main idea for the whole passage that we read is that the rainforest is home to many plants and animals. So if I'm looking for those specific things, the plants and animals, I will find them here in this passage. Let's try another one to make sure that we really understand what we're doing. So this one actually has 3 paragraphs, and you can tell that they're paragraphs because they're indented. That means it comes in a little bit at the beginning. So as I'm reading, again, be thinking about what are the topics of the paragraph, and then what's the overall main idea? What is the text mostly about? Long ago, people traveled west across the United States to settle in new places. Those people were called pioneers. Most pioneers moved west to start a new life. Many pioneers built log cabins. Log cabins are houses made from logs and mud. Pioneers stacked logs on top of one another. Then they put mud in between the logs to keep out the wind and rain. Most log cabins were small because it took pioneers so long to build them. Many log cabins had only one room. Most pioneers burned a fire to keep their log cabins warm. Most pioneers made their own clothing. It was usually made of leather, cotton, or wool. Pioneers dried animal skins to make leather. They used the leather to make shoes and belts. Pioneers spun wool or cotton into yarn and wove it into cloth. Women would make wool yarn with a special tool called a spinning wheel. At first, pioneers had to get their own food. They picked berries and nuts. Pioneers also hunted and fished. They planted crops such as corn and squash. When towns formed, the pioneers built small stores called general stores. People could buy supplies such as flour, coffee, and salt there. Okay, so now we're going to go back and look at paragraph 1 specifically. And we notice that in paragraph 1, it's talking about the pioneers, and it's talking about like what they do when they are building their houses. And so if I needed to write 1 or 2 words based on what I read in just that first paragraph, what would you write down for that? Think about it for a minute. If you said pioneer houses, you are correct. Now, you might not have said it exactly the same way that I had it, but if you put log cabins or something along the lines of how they built their houses in 1 or 2 words, then we have the same idea. That's the topic of paragraph 1. So let's look at paragraph 2. And I noticed that it's talking about clothes and what they use to make their clothes. So what would you say is the topic for paragraph number 2? If you said pioneer clothing, you would be correct. Again, you might not have said it the exact same way that I did, but remember, topics are only 1 or 2 words, and that's it. Look at paragraph 3. I want you to try this on your own. I'm not going to give you any hints this time, so really think about what was paragraph 3 telling us. And if you said pioneer food or something along the lines of talking about the food that they ate in 1 or 2 words, you would be correct. Remember, it's talking about the different kinds of food they picked and the different things that they did in order to get food and survive. And so that is what that topic of that paragraph is about. Now let's think about the main idea of the whole passage that we just read. Well, they talked about pioneers' housing, their clothes, and their food. So this is all things that to me are pioneers. That's our topic. Our main subject is pioneers because we're talking about that group of people. So that's my who. And what are they doing? Well, I see that long ago, they actually told me when. So long ago, pioneers, what were they doing? They moved west to start a new life. But they did all of these things. So my main idea is, long ago, pioneers built houses, made clothing, and got food because they wanted to start a new life out west. So again, I used some of my information from the very first paragraph in the beginning sentences, which is what we said where we would maybe find our main idea in the beginning, because authors want us to know, hey, this is what our story is about, so that if you need to look for information, that's where you know to look. Also, I want to point out is our topics for each one of these paragraphs. If I was maybe going to write this and I use these topics at the beginning of each one of these paragraphs, those would be my subheadings. So think about it when you are reading in the future and you see subheadings above each one of these paragraphs like that. It's a hint about what that actually is about, that paragraph's about. All right, so we're going to practice. And what I have for you to practice is a couple passages, and you're looking for those topics, and then you're going to also identify the main idea of that passage. So I want you to practice those as you go today. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget our secret word for today is panda. That's right, it's panda. Remember when we read our poem earlier, we talked about pandas, and I hope that you learned a lot today with finding that schwa sound that we learned at the beginning with our word work, and also looking for the topics and main ideas in your stories and passages that you're reading. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great afternoon.